takeoff. Noah's phenomenal.
Now, dog, I got to ask you this, though, man. I already know you were a writer and everything, but seriously, how did you get connected with Noah, Tokyo Joshi, DDT Pro, to even be a commentator?
That was all Sonny's crazy idea. He watched me do. I'll tell you exactly how it came about. When I got married 5 years ago, it was my second marriage, and my wife was like, "Well, what do you want to do, for the wedding and everything?" And I said, "Well, Howard Finkel's going to come and do the MC." So when we had the reception, Howard.
Wait a minute. Did you just say Howard Finkel was the MC at your wedding, dog?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, a new husband and wife. Yes. And
That's so fucking dope, dog.
And everyone came out to their own wrestling theme music, all the bridesmaids and the groomsmen and everything like that. But then Howard does his intro, and the Road Dogg music kicked in, and I went out there. They gave me a microphone, and Howard looked at me and he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, right on the mic, I said, "Howard, if I screw this up, he's going to kick my ass." And I went in, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new married couple proudly brings to you." And we went through the whole thing, and Sonny watched it, and he goes, you really can talk. And I was like, "Well, yeah, you want to see the Midnight Express when they called me Jim Cornette's nephew, and I kind of played that role too? And we fought DX, and Jeff Hardy broke my arm, and we did this in Nashville, and we did that." And he goes, "You really can talk." He's like, "I have this thing coming up." He goes, "What do you think about doing this DDT Pro? Can you do commentary?" And I said, "I did commentary in professional football. How bad could it be?" If you've been a student of wrestling your whole life, and whether you're scrawny like me or big like you, you're a student of it, you can pick up the stuff very easily. My biggest concern was botching all the Japanese names, and thankfully, Sonny helped me with phonetic sayings, or the phonetic ways to say their names, so I didn't botch it during the pay-per-view. So as long as he keeps giving me the phonetic sayings, we're going to be okay.
I appreciate two things about this. Number one, with Noah, because when New Japan came to the U.S., before AEW, and I saw just some fantastic messages and all this stuff. And now you see AEW coming and, using that same style, right? And now we got Noah, so excellent opportunity for more wrestling here in the United States. But two, announcing is so important. It's an art that I don't know. I grew up with Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, right? And so it's like you could have a garbage truck in the background, and those two just sitting there talking, put everything over, and it didn't matter. It could be nothing. So having some more players like you in the game with passion, because if the announcer doesn't care, or if they're paying attention to the next match, it's like, well, why should I care? Well, why am I watching this thing?
Yeah. No, that was, and at my wedding, Howard actually sat down with me and he said, where did you come up with all this stuff? No one just does that off the cuff. No one just, and I said, I take a little bit of you, I took a little bit of Vince, I took a little bit of Bobby, and I took a little bit of Gorilla Monsoon, and I merged that, and every morning, or whenever I would get up, if I was in the shower, some people sing in the shower, I cut promos and pretend I'm the commentators, not the wrestlers, but the commentators. And as I just kept doing that, it just get better and better and better. And like I said, when I worked with the Giants, Pat Hanlon was like, "Yeah, we're sticking him in the CBS booth because he's got a mouth on him. Stick him over here because he can do this." And then when we started doing the wrestling, they were like, "Well, what do you think about being a manager?" And I was like, "Well, okay, we'll go over there and do that." "Well, you're going to be with the Midnight Express tonight." "Okay, and we're calling you Cornette's nephew." "Okay, we can do that." "Okay." And all I did was just memorize what Cornette used to do. "Twin brothers from a different mother, the Midnight Express." And then the two of them would look at each other, and off we would go, But I mimicked more the commentators, and that's where I think I just honed in on it, and it got better and better.
Nice. Well, now it's time for me to ask my question. Daryl has a question he asked, but it's not his turn yet. It's mine. He'll ask his later. But my question is this. It's a segment we do. It's called Book Yourself.
Okay.
Now, you being an announcer, you being a commentator is a little different, but I know you watch the products right now. At least you're aware of WWE, AEW, Impact, and everything. If you took Rob right now, where would you book yourself, or how would you book yourself to benefit the current pro wrestling scheme?
Well, I was never a wrestler, but I was on the back end of it. So I'll take it from a different approach. I would take the match we got coming up with Orton and Drew McIntyre. I would put Orton over, and I think you got to have Charlotte come back and avenge the kicking of her father. And if there's any woman out there who I know has the ability to put on a match with Randy as well as she can, it's Charlotte. And I would work the very first ever intergender WrestleMania match for the WWE title. Because she has to come back and avenge what Randy did to her father.
What about David Flair? You gonna throw David Flair in that mix? You gotta get down first.
I don't know that David wants to get off the potato chips and the salsa that he eats on a regular basis, and David I think is about 350 right now, so Randy might have a hard time getting him up for a scoop slam, but I think it has to be Charlotte. And I think the other thing is the promo that Randy cut on Rick last week when he insulted Reed and he brought up Reed, that hits very home to Charlotte because she loved her younger brother. The whole reason she's a professional wrestler is because of her younger brother Reed. He was her inspiration for doing everything, and that's why she has to be the one to come out and do this. Almost like the big fuck you, Randy. You're not going to talk about my family like this. She's even got his name and everything tattooed on her body. I think wrestling got away from being personal. And I think that if you have, if Daryl, you and I are going at each other on Twitter, and I don't like something you did or you don't like something I did, let's address it for real in the ring because the fans are reading our Twitter accounts anyways. So let's take it there. This whole, the things that they get away from, like Lana marrying Bobby Lashley. Look, she's TikToking with Rusev, so therefore they're not divorced. So the whole idea of suspending disbelief, it's gone. It's gone. So what, we got to get back to more reality. And that's where I think, Randy hit home. Mark Henry was saying the other day that he actually called Rick. He wanted to get on a plane. In Texas. He wanted to fly to St. Louis and beat the crap out of Randy. That's how much Randy had him hooked and had him invested. And he wound up texting Ric Flair and telling Rick, "I'm thinking of you. I'm so sorry," and da-da-da. And between Rick and Randy and this whole story, they've got everybody worked, which is a great thing. And that's why I think Charlotte, I would put Charlotte in that position. And she's been away that, we could even keep her away for a little bit longer if we wanted to, but it would have to culminate there. That would be how I would book it. With AEW, the other thing that I feel all of these companies are missing is sexy women. Not that the women that they have aren't sexy, but I'm coming from the day when we had Sable and Sonny, and even if they came out to just model a T-shirt or manage somebody, they were hot. And I looked forward to when their talent was coming out, or Miss Elizabeth, or Deborah, that sort of thing.
I got to ask you, Rob, can we get away with that in the current climate of how the world is? Can you get away with that?
Why not? A woman can't dress sexy and manage a guy in the ring? I'm not saying get naked. I'm not saying roll around in chocolate syrup. I'm saying, when Sable would come out in those skin-tight black vinyl outfits, and Sonny had her little schoolgirl outfit on and her little boots and everything like that, there was nothing wrong with that. You know, and she managed her teams, you know, when she managed the Road Warriors and she managed the Smoke and Guns and she did the Body Donnas. And then she transitioned to doing all sorts of different things on TV. I think we've gotten away from that. And I think that takes away from a large part of our audience.
Well, you know, I think so too. As you know, as a kid, you know, when you looked at some of these people, you were like, I want to be like this guy. You know, that guy is badass. I want to be like this guy. And nowadays, as a guy, I mean, I don't know what the kids are doing. I don't want to be like any of these guys. I might be better than most of these guys out there. And so it's the same thing, like having the beautiful women. Again, not to be gratuitous, but used in a way that you go, oh yeah, she's hot. It's like, you know, I remember looking at The Rock, you know, being in Michigan State, because The Rock came to Michigan State. I was like, man, me and my boys were like, this dude is so cool. And I can't say that about these guys now. You wanted to be like him. You wanted to wear those clothes, right?
Yeah. Well, the part of the problem with that also is WWE doesn't want to create any superstars anymore. They want to be the brand. And when you had guys like Rock and you had guys like Austin, they became bigger than the brand. Look at Rock now. I mean, if it wasn't for Rock if it wasn't for Dwayne Johnson becoming The Rock and smell what The Rock is cooking and Jabroni Drive and Know Your Role and all this stuff, he wouldn't be the great, phenomenal actor that he is today. You know, Steve Austin, The Rock, all of these guys, they were bigger than the three letters. And now the WWE realizes that, and they go, well, we're going to take our thumb and we're going to hold you down there, and we're going to make sure that no one ever gets bigger than the brand. Nobody. And that's a simple fact. And none of these other companies, as much as I like AEW, I don't even know where TNA is these days, but none of these other companies can get as big as WWE, at least right now. So therefore, they wouldn't mind having Chris Jericho be in a super Marvel film, you know. But once you get up there, that's why we don't see Rock anymore. Why does Rock have to come back even in a guest role? He's making $140 million a year. You know, Steve Austin, he doesn't need to do anything. He's got reality shows and this show and that show and this thing and that thing. Once they become bigger than the brand, they don't need you anymore.
Yeah. Shout out to Sonny Onoo. He's watching right now. And, he actually told me to ask you two things. The first thing he said was he does commentary with his fur babies he rescues. Ask him about that. And he also said, speaking of the sexy wrestlers, talk about DDTs. And I'll help you out phonetically.
Akisaki.
Yeah, you know exactly what. Talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it.
She is phenomenal. Now, she's a great worker. On the DDT pay-per-view that we did, she actually was in a match. It was a 6-man match, 2 guys and her. They're actually the 6-man tag or 6-person tag champs in DDT. They actually fought the girl who was in AEW and her 2 counterparts. But this girl, not only could she move, she does this sick finisher where she basically jumps off of your knee and does this thing like the girl from Street Fighter, comes down with her heel on the back of your head. We don't know how it doesn't kill anybody, but it is the sickest move. That's her finisher. She's got legs that could stop an 8-day clock. She's gorgeous. This girl's Instagram account is just all her modeling pictures. She's got to be a model. She's beautiful, but she also is a phenomenal worker. And I lots of times you find they either have one or the other. This girl has everything. She's got everything, and she's just amazing.
As I'm Googling her right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Why you're doing that, Daryl? I think it's time for your question for Mr. Rob.
Yeah, you know why I got 2 things. So one, you know, I always ask the question, like, you know, when you join up, when you're in a locker room or you know you're working with the group, you got to have a mark out moment, right? Where you're in there with somebody like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm sitting here next to this person. So that's one question I want to add. Then I want to follow up with, what's the best thing that you produced or wrote? What's your masterpiece that was a part of WWE? So who'd you mark out for And what was your masterpiece?
I probably, you know, the mark out thing is hard. I loved the fact that when I started, I got embraced quickly by the bad guys, if you will. And that was always like my, you know, here comes Rob with the bad friends. And the bad friends were the guys that always looked out for me. It was Kevin Nash. It was Road Dogg. It was Billy Gunn. You know, it was Sean. It was the Click guys. You know, if that made me a bad guy, so be it. But it also got me paid. So I'm not going to argue. And being around those guys and the mark out moment usually was after the shows when we would go out to the party places and things like that, and you're treated like you are one of them because you're with them. That was for me the mark out moment. The other mark out moment would have to be we were doing a show in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and this was when I started, when WWE purchased WCW. They asked me to move down south and begin an independent type promotion that was funded, that we could get, if they had legends that were trying to come back, we could put them on the show and see how well they could work. And if we had up and coming guys, we put them on the show on the undercard and we see how well they can perform. And I was managing the Midnight Express at the time on this show, and we led up to, it was going to be the Midnight Express against Road Dogg and Billy. And Brian came to me and he said, you know, everyone hates you. They you know, that we've been leading up that you're this little snot nose with the tennis racket. You've been hurting everybody and costing everybody the match to help the Midnight Express. What if you go out there and the two of us go out there and we set up a 6-man match where it'll be the 3 of you against me, Billy, and a partner of my choosing. And we won't tell anybody who the partner is. And I said, okay, all right, we could do that. So I go out there, do the promo with him where I wish I could beat you up. But he said, I got somebody, you know, we'll set up the 6-man at the end. And we go in the back and out comes Jeff Hardy. And he says, he's going to be my partner tonight. Now, when we had done shows in the past, the finish was always Brian hits me with the pump handle slam. The crowd goes nuts. I get beat up. We go home. Tonight, he says, Jeff's going to hit you with the twist of fate and a swanton bomb. And I'm like, no, he's not. And Jeff's like, oh, don't worry. I'm going to miss you by this much. You'll be fine. I don't think so. They called Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy gets on the phone with me. He's like, Rob, trust me, my brother, he's not going to hurt you. He's going to miss you by a mile. Okay. We go out in the ring. Here comes the spot. I get the tennis racket. I whack Jeff Hardy. He turns around, hits me with the boot. We go into the twist of fate. We go down. And the one thing he told me before we went out, he said, listen, when I hit you with the twist of fate, just make sure your arms are all tucked in. Just make sure you're straight as an arrow when I go up to the top rope. He goes, and I'm going to miss you, but the back of my head's going to catch your side or whatever. He's like, I'm going to miss you by a mile. Okay. We do it. And the crowd was so alive when he hit me. Finally, they got their hands on the evil Cornette character, and he hits me with the twist of fate. You had 8,000 people going nuts in this auditorium that we were in, and I laid my arms out like this, and I'm just laying in the ring, and he's on the top rope going, tuck your arms. And I was just like, screw this. This is awesome, and I'm loving it. And he goes off the top. He lands on my arm snaps. I got Tracy Brooks, who is my sidekick. She runs in the ring, and she goes, what the hell? I think he broke your arm. I go, yeah, but listen to the crowd. And that, yeah, and then, you know, we went to the club that night, and, you know, a bottle of vodka, you forget all about the pain.
Nice, nice. So nice, man.
You know? But yeah, and then you had a second question. I'm sorry, we went off on a mark out tangent.
What's your masterpiece?
My masterpiece. It probably was those shows when we were in the South and we were doing that kind of work. And you get the trust of you know, Connecticut to say, go down south, pick, you know, you got to find a place to live. We'll pay for it. That was another funny thing too. Pick out a place. We'll pay for it. You're going to run these shows. Basically, you're going to fund my indie shows, and all I got to do is put your name talent on there. You're going to give it to me for free. Okay. We actually had my masterpiece, and Tony Hunter, who's legendary promoter in North Carolina, he still wants the DVD. We promoted Terry Funk and Dusty Rhodes in a steel cage, and it was the last time they both fought each other, and it was actually the last time Dusty Rhodes was ever in a ring. And we had that was actually the main event to the undermatch, which was the one where Jeff Hardy broke my arm. I was actually second to last on that, and then Dusty and Funk lit the ring on fire. Funk took the branding iron. He lit the branding iron on fire. Went after Dusty. Dusty goes, "Don't touch me with that." So he lit the referee on fire. It was the athletic commissioners in South Carolina were not pleased with us that night. But that was definitely I would say that was probably one of my best masterpieces. And then I go back all the time. I all the things that I did with Crime Time. The four vignettes that we did. I mean, they were hilarious. I mean, I still go back and watch them today.
Rest in peace, Shad Gaspard.
I love Shad.
Now, you think we just gonna let you tell us your masterpieces without telling us some of the drizzling shits? Stuff you put out there that was like, man, what the fuck was I writing? Or the collective, y'all, and even you were like, nah, this ain't it. But they want it, but this ain't it.
Yeah, we did one where it was Jeff Jarrett and Rick Steiner, and Jeff wanted me to do the guest refereeing on this thing. And I said, Jeff, I don't know if why can't we? He goes, well, because you're the scumbag that's got to help me, and da-da-da. And Rick had obviously had a couple beers, and Jeff had a couple other things, and we got in there, and no one knew where anybody was supposed to go, and they're taping this, and I got a phone call, and they said, what the fuck were you thinking when you saw this thing come to? And I was like, well, at 4 o'clock when we put it together, it looked really good on paper, but 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock when they got in the ring, not so much.
Nice. I want to say this before we get out of here, because we don't want to keep you all night, but we definitely can. And I'm telling you now, we bring you back for a part 2, because we got we go on a whole nother hour and a half with you, dog. I want to touch on something earlier that we talked about, ratings.
Yeah.
How important is Vince going crazy about ratings? Are the networks going crazy about ratings? Are you guys going crazy about quarter hours and the final rating? Especially when that WWE, WCW thing was going on, you know where we were at. So yeah. How important were ratings at that time?
Back then, it was very important. Back then, we got reports the very next day of where our segments, they actually didn't even break out the quarter hours. They actually broke out our segments. So if I gave you a segment, Whip, and you were working with, let's just say, The Rock, and then I had to work with Crime Time, if my segment beat yours, he would call you out in the room and say, what the hell were you thinking? That sucked. How can he beat you? And it was competitive. They broke out to the segment what we were doing. Not the, I mean, we had the quarter hour ratings and things like that, but they broke it out. They had a way of breaking it out by the segment. So he could actually say, well, you know what? He's getting a little stronger. Maybe we give him this thing, or maybe we go this way, or by the rating by the segment. That was how we determined where we were going to put certain acts. Like Crime Time in the beginning, he gave us the first quarter segment. We got such a pop on that, he put us into 9 o'clock. So then it was like they would keep doing as they go to commercial. Don't forget tonight, Crime Time is back with another training video. And the people would be like, okay. And he would keep leading. Is it now when we go into break? And he would reel the fans in. Okay. And if we had a segment that we knew that was what we were going to do, because the ratings were coming in like that, the way he would have it broken out, then we knew where we were going to put different things. If Austin, we needed a big number in the very beginning, we bring Austin out with the beer truck right in the beginning and have him give everybody the finger, drink some beer, curse out the boss, and then he doesn't show back up until the end of the show when we need the bigger rating again, because we had to compete with WCW. Now he's getting $1 billion. He doesn't care what the ratings are. So don't let anybody fool you when they say, oh, they're drawing a 1.8 or a 1.6, or this was the lowest rating. Yeah, but the check from USA still cashes. So thanks.
You heard that? Cut the check, man.
You know,
Shout
as
out-
long as there are still zeros in the bank account, that's all he cares about.
Alex Pence just said, Rob, what's going on, man?
My old drinking buddy in Myrtle Beach. Good bartender. Good bartender.
Speaking of that, though, talking about the ratings, were you around when they did This Is Your Life, Rock?
Yes. Yep.
Now, the longest segment.
Everybody in the back was like, and I remember it was Gerwitz that was a part of it. And we all were kind of, he was over in the corner. We all were kind of looking at him going, hey, you're going to get your ass beat. And Vince is throwing shit, and they can't go to commercial. And he's got, you're given a sheet that tells you at the mark when we're going to commercial. That's why a lot of times now they do that split screen, because you're involved in such a high-end match. We got to go to split screen. They were and he's missing this block. He's missing this block. And when you miss a block, that's a chunk load of advertising dollars that's just going right out the window. And he was pissed. But then, and Brian took the heat for that night, that Monday. And when they came back, Mick got chewed out, Rock got chewed out. I mean, it was awful. Then Tuesday came, and the blocks, the blocks, not the quarter blocks, but the segment blocks came out, the ratings. And there was a lot of ass kissing going on after that. It was a lot of apologies, and well, I guess that shit worked. Yeah, the shit kind of did work. Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, it was funny, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was one of the best segments ever. I mean, it was funny, but that was, again, the reason they designed that This Is Your Life, Rock, was going back to what we started talking about in the beginning, which was what will make Vince laugh? And if you can make him laugh, and that was like with Rock with the girl, the high school girlfriend, poontang your ass out of here, and and all this stuff, and Mick just going along with it, and Mick has a way of bringing everything out and just making you laugh. Yeah. And he's just got a personality that when he starts, you're smiling already. And then you got Rock and his wise antics. It was a recipe for success and disaster all at the same time. But that was yeah, I remember that, and that was one crazy night.
Yeah, I've heard. But they did like what, an 8.1 or something. Like that was an astronomical number. So
yeah. And when they break out the segment, that was the quarter number. When they break out the segment number, it was even better. Wow. It was even better because the ratings, the ratings are skewed. There's a science to it which is far beyond calculus 101 for me. The way they calculate these things, and I'm learning now, even with DVR, nowadays we can DVR things. We can DVR Monday Night Raw. The rating is skewed because tomorrow they'll come out with a rating and say Raw did 1.7, let's just say. However, then there's the true rating. You actually have 72 hours or 3 days to review the content in your DVR for it to be counted in the ratings. So let's say you guys are busy tonight and you're DVRing Raw and you don't watch it until Thursday. Well, that doesn't count in the ratings anymore. Now they've lost that viewer. But if you watch it tomorrow or Wednesday, it's going to count in the true rating. So that 1.6 or 1.7 that you're reading about that Meltzer loves to blast all over the internet, he's lying because it's not a true rating, because now with DVR, you have 72 hours to review the content, and that's for any program. That's if you're watching Real Housewives of Atlanta or you're watching Monday Night Raw or AEW, it doesn't matter. That's how they get that rating. So that's so the 1.6 or 1.7 that they blast in the very beginning, and the same thing with AEW and NXT. They did 700 here, 900 there. That's that night, but that doesn't take into consideration all the DVRs.
Yeah, it doesn't take into consideration either, like YouTube or streaming, where like they're getting ad dollars from YouTube. So maybe I never watched the show at all, but I watched some segments on YouTube 2 days from now. They're getting the money from that. So maybe they didn't count the rating on Monday, but they're still getting paid.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the ratings these days don't mean as much as they did back in the day, because nowadays the rating doesn't matter, because if I DVR this thing, I'm fast forwarding through the commercials. So the ad dollars don't work out. Whereas back then, The only thing you were doing possibly was VHSing your Monday Nitro or Raw, depending on which one, or you had two TVs going at the same time, you know, or you caught the 11 o'clock broadcast on Nitro when it replayed. They still were getting those advertising dollars. So, you know, you couldn't get through the commercials. You had to sit there and watch the commercials, and you never knew. And that was another ratings ploy by Eric too. He had the Nitro girls. So once again, you had gorgeous looking girls that weren't doing anything bad or off color or anything like we were talking about before that would offend anybody, but they were very sexy. And I definitely loved catching the beginnings of when we came back from commercial WCW. So, you know,
Shawn Michaels did too. That's why he ended up marrying. Never mind.
No kidding. No kidding. A lot of those Nitro girls got around a lot of different places.
Oh, man. No, with that being said, man, like I said, we can't keep you all night, man. But I know you had another announcement. Can we get it? Let's get that in.
All right. We're going back to FITE TV one more time. And FITE TV is actually going to do me, Sonny Onoo, and Dan Madigan, who does the commentary for Josh Pro Wrestling. We're actually going to have a weekly television show that is going to be airing on FITE TV every week. And it's going to cover Noah, DDT, Josh. It's basically going to cover, you know, all the wrestling that you know, that really needs to be covered. And it's not going to be one of these, I hate this, and this is what stunk about this week, and this is this. I feel we've got enough of that. We need something extremely positive. And you know, and I think this show is going to not only spread the word about Noah and how great Noah is, but it's also going to get some eyes on DDT and Josh, because those two shows, if you take a look at them on FITE TV, they were really good shows, and I'm excited to be coming back and doing the next one September 27th. So it's going to be exciting, and then September 22nd, Noah live on FITE TV. It's going to be exciting.
I gotta say, man, and I think there might have been, speaking of DDT Pro, might have been a little bit before you, but I was telling Sonny about it when we had him on. They did something that way before the 24/7, when they were doing their own 24/7. I don't know if you ever seen that video.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I never seen nothing like it, man.
Yeah. No, they are, you know, they have an extreme champion right now, and he's a legit cage fighter. You know, he's a world champion in MMA, and he was on the show, the DDT show that we called, but he fought a guy that emulated Ronald McDonald, and he wore the suit and the mask and everything, and Ronald kind of went off key a little bit. I mean, he was doing some extreme things, if you will, and that was that was a little bit of a challenge, but again, it was entertaining. And if I'm entertained, I hope the fans are entertained, and I hope that together between me and Sonny and Dan, I hope we bring something to the audiences other than the Japanese audience, because they're watching in Japan or in Japanese. But I hope we bring something enjoyable to them, because I know that's what Barnett and Jim Ross did for me when I would watch New Japan.
For sure. Hey, yo, Daryl, man. We meet all these guys. We got to start putting our applications in with these guys, man. We gotta start hooking us up, man. Put us on a show. No, I'm joking, man. But, Daryl, you got anything for him before I go ahead and go to hit that final segment?
No, man. I think he hit some major points, though. No, I just, you know, I know you're going to take over, you know, for what's coming up next. No, I'm just excited to have you on the show. And, no, you dropped a lot of good stuff. Yeah, we definitely got to do another one where we bring you in and get deeper into some of those stories.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll leave you with one.
Days. Did you have some sunny days?
We actually, there was a Meadowlands Carnival, and it was a Ferris wheel, and
wait a minute,
the Ferris wheel stopped at no, but I will leave you with one good one, and Nash always loves when I tell this story, because it was breaking me in, if you will. I was 21 years old, just gotten out of Seton Hall, and I thought I was a hot shot. So I was doing this signing with Kevin Nash, and we were in Buffalo, New York, and we did this autograph sign at the card store. And when it was over, he says, "Is there a place we can get a steak around here?" So the promoter says, yeah, it's down the road. There's an Outback. He goes, okay. So we go to the Outback together. We're in this limo. And he orders bottles of wine, and we're drinking the bottles of wine. And then he goes, is there a strip club around here? So the guy says, yeah, down the street. So the limo guy says, I'll take you. So we go to the strip club, and he goes in there and he takes out $1,000, goes over to the girl dancing on the stage. He sticks $1,000 in her G-string and goes, we're sitting over there. All the girls jump off the table. They come over to our table. He then comes to the waitress and he gives her $1,000 and says, don't stop pouring drinks until this is gone. Because I had been telling him all the time, I could drink with you. College parties, I can hang with Kevin Nash. So he goes, okay. So here he gives the girl the $1,000 and he goes, what do you want to drink? So I'm like, whatever you want. He's like, Jack Daniels. I'm like, okay. So we're banging shots of Jack Daniels. We're drinking and drinking and drinking. The $1,000 is gone. He says, is there a blues place around here? So they're like, House of Blues down the road. He goes, come on, let's have some chicken wings. So we go to House of Blues. He orders a ton of chicken wings. Again, keep drinking until we're done. So we're doing shots. He's actually supposed to fight Booker T in a steel cage the next night. So Bischoff is calling him, wanting to know where he is. He goes, my stupid agent got me lost. And he's like, I can hear the music in the background. He goes, yeah, I'm going to have to call you back, the GPS. And he hangs up. So we finish at the House of Blues, and now all of a sudden everything starts to spin for me. And he's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, oh, God. And he goes, not in the car. And I flooded the limo.
Oh.
We get out, and a couple months later, we're working together again. Now, this time, my dad comes with me to meet Kevin, because he's like, man, I got to see this guy that did this to you. So we're going to the Royal Rumble now in Boston. He has left WCW. He's going to Royal Rumble. And my father says, we were in New Jersey. We're going to drive to Boston. He says, now, listen, Kevin, you're going to go out with him. You know he's stupid. What are you doing? He goes, it's not my fault. I was drinking Diet Coke shots the whole time. He was the dumbass that said he could drink. And I looked at Kevin and I said, you did what? And he goes, I wouldn't drink that much Jack Daniels, you idiot. He's like, you were the one that thought you were a hotshot college kid. And yeah, so I learned my lesson, and unless I see the bottles on the table and I see Kevin pouring the Camus wine, we don't drink. And we don't, say things that we shouldn't.
Rob, that's crazy. Rob, you've been an amazing guest. Hey, everything I expected, you gave me even more tonight, man. So salute to you.
And I gave you the Super Bowl ring.
Exactly. That's an exclusive. Now, before we go, when the show's over, don't leave. We got to talk to you for a second. But it is time for our very final segment of the show. It's called Ring the Bell. That's when we give you 60 seconds. You can talk about anything. You can just promote. You can inspire people. You can talk about life. You can talk about your fur babies. Whatever you want to talk about. But Rob, you got 60 seconds. I need you to ring the bell.
Ding, ding. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, September 22nd, FITE TV, Noah Pro Wrestling, the biggest night in sports entertainment. It'll be me, the ROB, mobbing once again with Sonny Onoo. And then September 27th, DDT Pro. We're going to be live one more time on FITE TV. And by then, I will have my 13th fur baby with me. Good old Babette, the dog Dave Bardot. She's coming in. She might even be on the pay-per-view. You never know.
Y'all heard it. You heard it. He ain't giving you no more. You got to come back for part 2 if you want some more. That's it. We ain't giving you no more. Daryl, another great show, man.
Man, another great show. They keep rolling. I thought like with season 1, we had the top. We keep getting higher and higher. I don't know where we can go from here, man.
I don't know, man. Rob just hit a climax, man. If anybody comes past him, I don't know if it's possible. But we're going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys know what to do. Check us out each and every week. The Whip Show Podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, at The Whip Show Podcast. You can watch the podcast on YouTube. Just put in The Whip Show Podcast. You can see the video. If you want a guest on here, email us, thewhipshowpodcast@gmail.com. We're here. Every platform, Spotify, Anchor, Google, iTunes. You got it. We can hear us. But you know what it is. I am Deshaun, Whip Dog Whipple, and
devastating Daryl Payson. We got to give a shout out too. We got listeners in the Netherlands and stuff. Thank you from all around the world for joining in.
Listeners in Croatia, the Netherlands, Germany, all over, man. It's been a great ride, but we got it because we got the man. And shout out to Rob. You heard him. Check him on FITE TV, Tokyo Joshi, DDT Pro, Pro Wrestling Noah. Download the FITE TV app right now. We will see you guys next time on the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast, a.k.a. The Whip Show. Take care, guys.